What is up, adventurers, and welcome to a brand new ShawnSetGO video. Today we're going to be talking about some of the most recent changes that we have all heard about with the puzzling cartel chips. We're going to go through some of the most prominent responses to those, but also, go a little bit beyond it and discuss maybe some solutions that, created by Blizzard's own problem. So, let's discuss that. But before we jump into that, of course, if you are enjoying the videos, give this a like, subscribe to the page while you're at it, because we have much more videos to come with the upcoming horrific visions on top of that. So let's discuss the Dinar development meeting. So this post says the WoW design team assembles to discuss the details Dinar implementation in War Within 11.1.5. Senior game designer, we should make it so that you can only buy myth track items if you've downed the corresponding boss. That way mythic raiders are still rewarded for completing mythic raiding, and it serves as bad luck protection for all levels of content, thus preserving the sanctity of mythic raid loot. The team nods in agreement with the sentiment of the suggestion. Junior dev nervously raises their hand. But wouldn't that further incentivize players to buy mythic raid boosts? By purchasing sufficient WoW tokens, one could easily use real-life money to acquire specific pieces of mythic raid loot. Wouldn't that blur the boundary of pay to win? The accountant's eyes transfix upon a nervous up-and-comer, and a sadistic smile creeps upon the gaunt visage. For now, the accountant turns on Ian. Ian is stun-locked, unable to move. His eyes widen like a deer in headlights, sweat dripping down his brow. He coughs nervously, trying to break tension, anything to escape the oppressive atmosphere. Ian finally regains composure. He looks across the room and slowly nods. They're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. They knew this wouldn't go down well. I finished M+ season with a 99 percentile, all pugged. You're not going to convince me to raid mythic. My schedule won't allow for it. Can we all just acquire power from our preferred game mode at roughly the same pace, please? While you're at it, give me mythic clusters and raiders a way to target mythic plus trinkets, maybe. Throw in delves for all I care. Why are we doing this to ourselves? I think this brings up a very valid point, a lot of humor in this, but of course, the main thing here that I think that is a valid point is that everyone wants a way to target the gear that they want and the game mode that they prefer. Now, are all those game modes even? Of course not. Is mythic rating equal to M+? At what level does those things equal? Are we able to get the equivalent in our rating trinkets from in mythic? There's some, that you can say, like, here's my bis mythic plus, here's my bis for rating. Of course, these things exist. Is there a bad luck protection system within this that you could squeeze out? I think it's the main thing that a lot of people are saying, are trying to like find a silver lining within. I do understand the concept of the bad luck protection. I have played a rogue for a very long time, and literally there were so many people who could take my single piece of gear because it fell under any DPS that also could use it. So I understand there's a lot of times when you just don't get that piece of gear to drop, or even if it does drop, you're just not lucky enough to be the one to get it. I understand that concept, but the whole requirement nonsense to me doesn't make sense. So if you're trying to create this as bad luck protection, then you would simply have a way for you to go, hey, even though you're not going to reach this level, if you do enough at this level, this is a way for you to also get it. It's like one drop equals piece of gear, but 10 runs equals also piece of gear. That way it's like a guaranteed. In a gacha game, I know that people love that when I mention gacha games in relation to MMOs. In a gacha game, you'd call this a pity. You'd have a 50-50 chance at this. Like, why are we in denial? Like, why don't just let this happen? Just make it to where basically when we get endless trash trinkets after so long, why not just give me a 50-50 chance of getting the trinket that I'm looking for? It's all about gambling and the Galagio, right? It's on theme, right? And give me a gambling chance at getting these things, possibly. I don't know, but to me, it just screams out of touch. But not all responses are universally against what's happening right now. Well, this one says specifically, the Dinar situation just proves that WoW players are just impossible to please. Impossible to please WoW players are we. So contrary to popular opinion, I think these are a great addition to the game. I even think that super rare drops shouldn't be included to the pool of purchasable items. There's absolutely no reason an M+ player should have access to a mythic track raid piece without killing that boss. People say that high M+ is comparable to cutting edge rating. It's delusional. For For cutting edge guilds to even attempt killing a boss requires 20 times the amount of dedication and prep, not to mention collectively punctuality of 20 people to execute things correctly, where one person messes up and wastes the pool of 19 others. Balancing wise, they could do better by making dungeon drops comparable to raid gear trinkets, but there's a lot of value spent in time and effect getting and winning a rare drop from the mythic gear. It should not be handed out to every Joe out there. The awakened raids are a separate case because the raids rotated and BIS for people consisted of pieces from different raids. You don't need a myth track BIS peer in every slot to play this game, nor does the top end M+ runners complain about this because most of them raid anyways. If you are timing something, you will time it without the 0.2% damage added from the super rare item. Rare drops are a fun surprise when they drop, and something makes them more exciting. If something to make them kill more exciting, it's called a rare drop for that reason. It would be a killing heroic Gallywix for the 20th time this week, hoping to win the diamond, but who cares if I never get it before the end of the season? It gives me something to look forward to each week, just like opening the vault. Rant's over. I want to say, I will give you the silver lining of, I understand what this person is saying in that, yes, if you're someone who's a raider and you don't get this piece of gear, this is for you. But where I deviate from this is this delusion of simultaneously, you don't need the piece of gear to make the difference, but also you can't have the piece of gear, you didn't earn it. Like, to me, these things are competing phrases where you're just like, you're drawing a line in the sand that doesn't, nobody asked you to draw, and nobody. Like, this doesn't exist for any particular person. This only exists for like one gatekeeping person who cares about this, but nobody else cares about this. So this whole gatekeeping mentality, I think, is kind of a wash. I understand the aspect of giving people the gear who are looking for it, but why not give a way for giving people gear who, at a certain point, I mean, like, this is the reality of it all, is it's so time gated that it's at a point where it's not gonna matter to you anyways. And so maybe it is only a small percentage that it makes an effect on people. But what if that small percentage gets you the kill, gets you the win, gets you the thing? Then did it matter? Then I'd say yes. So either it matters or it doesn't. Either you care or you don't. But at a certain point, I think we're putting too much weight on my kill has more value than yours. It's like Dark Souls. You know, when you have a mage build or a melee build. Oh, well, they did the mage build, so that's cheating. A win's a win. Like, you could say you did it the harder way, but I mean, we both got to the end, and it all takes certain strategies and things. And yes, there's certain things that are easier, but some things take more preparation and thought. So it's like in the end, all be all, what are we doing? I think that if you want to make this into a positive thing for people, what you're doing is you're providing not just bad luck protection, you're providing routes for people to access gear that gets them interested in the myth track gear. Because right now, the reason why this stuff is coming out is because, I mean, this is my personal theory, but I think the reason why they're doing this stuff is because not enough people are interested in the myth track gear to begin with. So how do you do that to help people? You don't just give it to them, but you do say, here's a route for you to earn that piece. Here's a route for you to at least get some of that gear on board. That way you can kind of get a taste for what that's like. And if that interests you enough to do mythic rating, then fantastic. At the very least, it keeps people in the game and keeps people invested. The last thing that they said is that this is a way other than vaults for you to get like another chance at gear. Well, then give people that chance. It's always about having people aspire upwards, not go, I'm at the level and all I'm doing is just shooting adjacently to the content that I'm shooting for. That's the bare minimum of what a game should provide. We need to provide something for people to be invested and to continue to invest in the game. I think it's a limited foresight to go, this is the only way people should think and nothing else. Like, everything else is invalid. Like, to me, it's just illogical to think that way. And so I think the protection systems and what people are talking about, this bad luck protection, is definitely something, but in reality, It's bad luck protection for who? So Blizzard wants to implement Dinars and chips as bad luck protection for Mythic grade loot. I understand the goals and intentions, but I really think about how many players kill Mythic end bosses, let alone how many farm Mythic end bosses. Currently, there are 211 guilds which have killed Mythic Gallywicks, of which 96 guilds killed before April 15th reset, meaning less than 2,000 players in the world have even killed Galley for more than one attempt at, say, a Jaster Diamond. Providing we say any bad luck protection should kick in after 2 kills, which based on previous systems like Fryrack Legendary is pretty generous. This entire system is designed for a fraction of the player base and even smaller than the Mythic Plus title cutoff, which is absurd. Dinars, as people know or like them, serve 2 main purposes: give players a fun bump in power midway, and making gearing and playable alts or switching mains a fun possibility. The Dinars chips simply don't do either of these for more than 0.05% of the player base, at which point I wonder why it even exists, other than to punish players for freeing themselves of dedicating 6 to 12 hours every week for multiple months to raiding. It's mostly disappointing to me personally because I've decided not to Mythic raid much this tier and was having more fun with Mythic Plus and the season overall than before. Overall, to me, it just feels like a punishment for not having the foresight to commit half of my free evenings every week to a raid team almost 2 months ago. And so lots of people are falling into this group where they go, well, I don't fall into this Mythic raid category. Why am I being punished? If you really want me to do Mythic raiding, either make it more accessible or provide me routes which go, hey, we're going to encourage you. We're going to give you more benefits if you jump into Mythic raiding, but we're not punishing you for doing something else. We're going, hey, the route you're doing is just fine, but just so you know, if you want the best chance, if you want the most opportunity, here it is. So I don't think there's a problem with distincting between Mythic Raid and M+. I totally get that. A lot of people miss the days when Mythic Plus it was the big thing that people in the raiding scene were upset by, because it was this thing that pulled people away from what people understood as the necessary end game activity. And so now that we have Mythic Plus and raiding as these things, and now people are doing delves, it was delves for a while. People are upset at delves because this is my once again my own personal theory, but the reason why people were so upset with delves, a lot of people like to self-target and be like they're just hating on people for no reason. Like, I have 6 wives and 13 kids and I don't have time for this. They're not hating on that aspect. They're hating on the aspect of the less people that are doing their thing. The more people doing other things, the less people they can pull from when they're trying to create their groups. So Mythic Plus was that first threat, and now the threat is delves. And now you have a system like this, which is going, let's separate people more. Let's go, if you're not somebody who does these things, you don't have to do them all the time. And so I think the people who are liking this or saying that it's a good thing for the game overall are kind of like hiding that truth, which is they don't want people to go and get their piece of gear and then not do Mythic raiding again. And then all of a sudden Mythic raiding is not necessary anymore because you got that one piece that you're like, I want to get this, and this is the necessary to me, and now I'm done. Now I can go back to Mythic like I enjoy. People are upset by that aspect. And I don't blame them in a certain way, because I understand, like, you don't have people who are going to stick around to the end of the season. But that's just kind of the nature of things. And I think what the real problem is, and what we all need to acknowledge, is when everybody universally is like, hey, everywhere else has not good trinkets, what are we to do? Then you're going to have a lot of people who go, I'm here for my one thing, and that's it. And then people bounce the moments that they're past that boss or they're past that point. So that's kind of the nature of it. And if they're not going to change those things, if they're not going to make accessible routes and equivalents to Mythic Plus and so on and so forth, then this is going to be the nature of it. It's just how things are going to be until it's done. And so let's talk about the solutions. And so this one says, Dinar fix, add Mythic Plus and delve vendors. Blizzard has been advertising WoW as having 3 pillars of PvE content: raids, dungeons, and delves. Blizzard is requiring Blizzards to kill Mythic raid bosses to get Mythic gear from Dinars, but this ends up excluding a vast majority of the player base from getting meaningful rewards. One possible solution: add separate Dinar vendors for each of the 3 PvE pillars. Add M+ Dinar vendor, add a delve Dinar vendor. So, and having sort of like cutoffs to those access ranges. I think this is one thing that, at least personally for Mythic Plus, I feel like needs to happen, because at least with delves feel very rewarding in that the reward system feels like you get enough gear influx to where it's, even if it's not necessarily the track you need, it's like, okay, well, this is at least a good placeholder. Mythic Plus feels very unrewarding right now. It does. And right now, for a lot of classes, you have a very specific set of mythics that you will go to try to get this. A lot of it comes from raiding, and so because of that, you have a great season being kind of overshadowed by people just getting a lack of gear. And I think there needs to be sort of vendors to help people have those catch-up mechanics. And it's kind of unfortunate that we're in a state of WoW where there has to be so many catch-up mechanics in the game. It feels like the game is constantly in a state of, well, people aren't accessing gear like they should, so let's create this system to help them access it faster. But then they time gate it, or then they put limitations behind it, or they restrict it so much that it's in a state of, well, I got it, but I didn't enjoy my time doing this at all. So I really wish that I just got it at some point, so I didn't have to do this anymore. But you know, here we are. So if we're not going to change the big overarching problem, which is people are not getting gear at the rate that they should, then we need to create systems that allow people to catch up in the ways that they prefer. And so beyond that, honestly, I mean, thankfully, we're getting systems like this. You know, I'm thankful that systems like this could exist and are being re-emerged into the game at crucial points where people are still interested. So I think there is positives to this. I just think it was fumbled in such a way that I feel like could have been done better. And by the time this is in a state where people are like, all right, now it's in the state that it should have been in the beginning, your first impressions are done. And that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles, so to speak. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this was helpful for you. What do you think is the solution for you that might fix the issues with Dinars or the system, as it were? So like, what do you think is the way that this could be implemented? So let me know in the comments, of course. And then please do give the video a like, subscribe to the page. Please do subscribe to the page. It does help us out. Every single time the numbers go up, it does help us get noticed out there, and it's been really great to, after all these months of grinding WoW and creating content, to see other creators, but also get reached out by World of Warcraft organizations that want us to make content for them. So it's been helpful for us, and I do this, but of course, you know, full time I serve in the military, and so this is like something I've done on the side for some time, and so this has been an amazing content creator journey, and I wouldn't be here without you guys. So I hope to continue making content for you guys and hopefully improving as time goes on. But until next time, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.